So first things first, Chris, how are you?
I'm great, man. I hope you are.
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad, and it's very good to hear. You seem well, and well, in doing my research, there were certain words I came across, like a sense of liberation, feeling liberated, just feeling good in your own skin.
Hmm.
So what I want to start with is heavy is the crown, kind of that song. When did that arise, and how much of that was part of your own kind of, I don't know if transformation is too big a word, but kind of what you went through in the past year or two.
Actually, that song got started by my keyboard player, Elvio Fernandez. We had just finished World on Fire, and he was like, "Hey, man, I got this idea. I don't know if it'll work for the record." And he sent me this like verse and chorus idea, and me and Scott and Marty, the producers, we were like, "Yes, this is pretty sick." And we just kind of took it and ran with it. And it just, to me, it was like, World on Fire was like this long, hard look at what the whole world is going through right now. And Heavy as the Crown felt like a statement, like we all have this heavy responsibility. We all have a responsibility to do something, about it. And when you realize the weight of that, whether it be in your own family or your career or, as a parent, when you realize the weight of that responsibility, it's really heavy, but at the same time, it's liberating because you know that you essentially have control over that by the decisions you make. And when you're trying to like carve your own path and not, conform to what everyone else is doing, the societal norms, it's a heavy weight. And at the same, I kind of experienced a little bit of that with, parting ways with a major record label,
Right.
And just thinking like, man, what do I want to do? What kind of record do I want to put out? What was the music that made me want to do this to begin with? And that was like, it was this weight and relief at the same time, because I knew it was my responsibility to make what I wanted to make. Nobody else was going to do it for me. And that was also very liberating because no one was in my way. And this record has been the most cathartic, I think, record that I've ever made. Okay. Because it's felt the most freeing, the most liberating, the most real, honest record that I've ever made from top to bottom. There's been no outside input, no peers saying you should do this type of record, no executives going, we need to catch up with radio here, we need to do this kind of song. It was me and my producers, and the occasional song that was co-written by one of the band members. It was all the inside circle, and from top to bottom, it's the record that I've wanted to make probably since my career started. And I can't wait for the fans to hear it. It's got some killer moments on it that I'm really excited to get the fans' reaction on.
Right. So before we get to the question what you wanted to make, I want to start with the first part of that kind of equation, as you mentioned it, why you've started doing this whole thing in the first place. So what did you once kind of, I don't, this is going to sound way too dramatic, but once you kind of got out of that major label deal, were there certain elements of your youth, of your musical interest that started to resurface?
Oh yeah, 100%. When you get out of the rat race of trying to keep up with radio and believing what, I take full responsibility for my own part in it, with believing that that's what I had to do, believing that I had to chase this sound, or believing that I had to do this to stay relevant, you know, and it's a bit of a, I don't know if I can swear on this
yes,
or not, but it's a mind fuck. It's a mind fuck for any artist who is kind of being touted by this major label, and you have major success, and then you're new to the game, so you want to believe that what they're telling you is in your best interest, and you start to go, okay, I guess this is the kind of record I need to make. Nobody else is playing guitars, you know what I mean? And I started to believe that hype as well. And so when I kind of stepped away from all of that and really shut out all the noise, I even got rid of people in my team, managers, agents, you know, and really kind of started again from the ground up in a way, and took a step back and started, like, I found myself listening to what was popular, and I was like, I'm not feeling anything, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm just doing unnecessary homework to see what else is out there, but I'm like, I feel nothing. And what do I want to hear? What made me excited about music? I started going back to like Facelift and Dirt and Super Unknown and Bad Motorfinger and Throwing Copper and all these records from the 90s that made me want to be a rock singer, made me want to start a band, made me want to write songs, made me want to sing on stage for a living. And I've been listening to that ever since, because it seems like the only thing out there that's like getting me excited about music again. And it feels good to like get that that excitement and energy that I felt when I was a teenager and I first saw live on the Secret Samadhi tour, you know, for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do that for a living, you know? So yeah, I think a lot of those records indirectly inspired this record, just because it was what inspired me to do music in the first place.
Right. On a side note then, because you obviously had a great deal of success, how do you look back at that success now then?
I don't look back at any of it with regret. I look at it as a gift. You know, I got to experience that. I got to experience, and don't get me wrong, like I wrote, you know, most of those songs,
sure.
and they were from the heart. I think in hindsight, like I was even talking to some of my band members the other day of like, it'd be really cool to go back to some of those songs and just completely flip them for live and make them big rock tunes. You know what I mean? And even some of the songs that weren't initially rock songs,
can you name
kind of
one?
reproduce.
Can you name one that you had in mind?
Waiting for Superman would actually be really cool as a heavy song.
All right.
I actually hear it in my head on how that could work. But and so yeah, I don't look back on any of that with regret. I'm very grateful that I got to go on national TV and get in front of millions of people and get my voice heard. And you know, that first record was very close to my vision from the beginning. And then, you know, once you get that success, then you got people we went through different A&R people for every record.
Oh, wow.
And so because there was so much turnover at the label, and what you run into with that is people that don't know you and people that don't understand you as an artist. And they're trying to put out their version of what they think Daughtry is. And that became this kind of inconsistent pattern throughout from record to record. And, you know, everybody would have their own idea of what we should sound like. And it felt like there towards the end, I was like, I don't even think that they know that we're a rock band. Like, I think that that's not how they view us. And so it was a mutual parting ways with RCA. And I'm very grateful for all their support, you know, until we did part ways. You know, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, but it feels so good to be fully independent. I'm making the videos that I want to make. I'm, you know, hell, I'm even wearing, you know, I'm wearing the wardrobe I want to wear. It's you know, it's 100% from me now. And that's a good feeling.
Did it affect the way that it must have, but how did it affect the way you wrote in terms of kind of, you mentioned you gravitated more towards obviously what you like yourself, but was it a very liberating writing process in that sense that you could try anything?
On the new record?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's some songs on this record that I don't think I've ever used, like certain parts of my voice that I've never really got to experiment with because the song didn't really call for it. And there's a lot of songs on this record that just I don't think would have ever happened if I was in a situation where I felt like I was having to write a hit or write a song that had to fit a certain format for radio. And so are there songs that sound like they could be on the radio? Absolutely. But it wasn't because I was trying to make that. They came very naturally, and they came from a very real place. And there's a song on the record where I think there's like hardly any production, and then there's songs where it's like probably the heaviest thing I've ever done. You know what I mean? So there's a lot for everyone on this record.
Well, can we delve into your vocals then a little bit? Because how did you challenge it? You mentioned you were able to do things on this new record now, or this upcoming record, that you weren't able to do before. So what were the things that you challenged yourself with? And I'm not very technical, but if you can.
Mm-hmm. I think my range. I challenged my getting back to listening to those records and what inspired me to be a singer in the first place, and having the years of experience on the road, that kind of, I feel like I'm a different singer now than I was when I started, which I think every singer goes through that. And I feel like I'm able to do things that I wished I could do when I was a teenager now. And like I figured it out or something. And, listening to records like, like Super Unknown, or, some of those higher range vocals that I'm, somehow in my age of 41, I'm able to do now that I wasn't able to do back then. And there's moments on the record where I kind of get to use that part of my voice. So I'm excited for the fans to hear it.
It's interesting that you mentioned, because Chad Kroeger, who you've toured with as well, I've spoken.
Chad Kroeger gave me this Deadpool radio.
Okay, oh, that's very cool. No, but I spoke to him a couple of years ago, and he had that. Sorry, he had that operation on his throat, right?
Yeah.
And he mentioned that afterwards he was more able to hit the notes that he wanted to hit. So it's interesting how you, as a singer, as you mentioned, you keep on developing. It's not like you're 18 and that's your voice. It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, I think it's super encouraging to me, because I won't mention any names, but there's certain singers that you grow up listening to, and then as they got older, they're not able to do that anymore. And there's always that fear of like, is that going to happen to me, or is my voice going to start going downhill, and I'm going to have to change keys and make it almost unrecognizable. And my voice has kind of gone the other way, and my range has gone even higher than I knew was possible. Even the tone of my voice changed over the years. But I think a lot of that has to do with figuring out how to do it right. And I think those earlier, I know the first record, like I look back and I cringe when I hear myself, because I hear the uncertainty in my technique. Like I hear that I didn't know what I was doing. I feel like I was trying to sound a certain way instead of just, coming out and letting it happen naturally. But that comes with years of being on the road and learning how to do it the right way, because you don't have a choice. You got to sing the next night and the next night and the next night. And as a kid, you know, I didn't realize I needed my voice the next day, you know?
With that in mind, because I find it interesting, the way you describe it. On that first record, was it like you were trying to sing like your favorite singers in a way, and then you had to find your own voice, or did you already had you already found your voice, and was it more a technical thing?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think at that time I thought I was using my real voice, and when I look back on it, I could hear. I think it was like I was trying to. I didn't know how to. I'm trying to explain this in a way that
for a layman like me.
No, for my even trying to understand it myself, I felt like I was singing from the wrong place. Mm-hmm. So it sounded like I was trying to hit a note instead of just hitting a note, if that makes sense. Like it felt forced, at least when I'm listening to it. You know, I've told some of my band members that, and they're like, I don't hear it, but I hear it, and I hear the work that was being put into it. You know what I mean? Second record, I felt like I was a completely different singer. Leave This Town, I was a completely different singer, because I'd been on the road, and I think that was the record where I really kind of found my own voice, and then it only progressed from there. And
over your career, did you look to other singers to see how to try to figure out how they did it, or was it kind of
always
okay?
Always. I'm the dude that like on tour, I'm always asking the other singer, okay, is your voice hurting too, or how did you hit that note? And like, it was almost like I never knew what I was doing. Like, and they're like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, I just heard you just did, you know, a full show and you sounded incredible. And I'm like, yeah, but I was struggling here. And they're like, dude, shut up, stop. You say that every night. And I was always asking singers like how they do certain things, because I guess it's something I've always been really fascinated with. And when I would hear, you know, the greats like Robert Plant or Cornell or David Coverdale, and I was listening to it. I was listening to things that most people probably weren't, you know. Most people just hear a good singer. That's sick. Right. I'm like listening to these little nuances going, how the fuck did he do that? And how did he go from that note to that note and still sound this good when he went back into his lower register, you know? And so I'm always intrigued. To this day, I'm always like, how can I do it better? How can I do it better? How can I do what I just did every night and not lose it? You know what I mean?
You mentioned Chris Cornell, and now you're doing a song. Now I have to find which one. Hunger Strike. You're doing a song, Hunger Strike as well, which I want to get into. But what was it about Chris Cornell's voice that made him so good?
God, everything. His tone, the use of his upper register, his control, and when he was using falsetto, he could do everything with his voice. He had the low baritone voice that just sounded good, and then he had this upper register that was just like just screaming, and it with vibrato and power. It wasn't, you know, there was a lot of singers that I looked up to growing up, but he was like the bar for me. Like he was the bar that I felt like I would never reach. Like there were certain, you know, songs where I was like, ooh, I could do this, but then he would get to a certain part and I just felt defeated. You know what I mean? And I would always sing to these records in my car or in my bedroom growing up. And he was one of the first singers that like made me listen, you know what I mean? And really brought me in as interested in what he was doing, and almost like can I do that? Like, I would love to be able to do that. Like, I remember, my teenage years, man, when I fell upon Super Unknown, that record was like life-changing for me.
Okay.
That was like my whole high school career. I listened to that thing almost every day. And I actually had my first car wreck. And I think Limo Wreck was playing in my tape deck. Nobody was hurt, but yeah, that song was playing while my car was upside down in a field. It was still playing in the tape deck, which is very ironic.
You have a good car radio then.
Well, the song was Limo Wreck, but I was driving a little Chevy Sprint hatchback.
Well, with what you just mentioned, and you've sang in tribute to him before, but is that a very daunting thing then to tackle a song like Hunger Strike?
This was something that it's weird because I feel like during the making of this record, I kind of found that part of my voice. And it made me excited to do this song because I was, for the first time, felt like I was going to be able to attack these parts that I always looked at as unattainable for me. And when I sang them, it was weird. It felt like, I was singing like one of my heroes, and it was this, I got like chills, and it was a moment for sure that I'm super proud of, and I'm really proud of the vocal on that song, and I hope the fans love it as much as I love performing it. And that song was one of the first songs that introduced me to Cornell. And well, actually, I think I found that song after Super Unknown, and I found out that existed, and then I found the record Temple of the Dog, and I was like, that's some of the best singing I've ever heard in my life. And so that song, like, to me, it's like the 90s. Like, that song is the 90s. It's like the best rock duet of our generation, and it's the 90s all in one song.
Right.
You got Eddie Vedder and you got Chris Cornell. Like, that's the 90s.
Right. Well, to kind of
have you heard it yet?
I haven't heard your version, no.
Okay, so I didn't know anyone knew about it yet. So we're
well, they mentioned it, but it's still under wraps in a way. So I won't release this until the song is out. But it was. So we got Lejean from Seven Dust on it as well. Yes. So he's doing the Eddie Vedder part. It was a lot of fun. I'm really, really proud of how it turned out. And yeah, like you said, it must be incredible to not only pay tribute to your heroes, but also to kind of get an approximation in your own mind, like you've not like you've arrived. I was going to say arrived, but like you belong, in a sense that, hey, I'm in this.
It was certainly a moment that made me feel very good about, I've been wanting to, I've considered myself a rock singer ever since I, got in front of a microphone because of, all the, that's just the way I sing. Mm-hmm. But to find another part of another gear that I didn't even know I was able to do was pretty, that was a lot of fun. It's kind of like, a guitar player learning a solo that he thought was unattainable, and all of a sudden he can rip it, and it, I definitely got a lot of pride from that.
Oh, that's good. Well, the thing I want to end on is, and it's kind of a little bit of well, let's just jump straight into it. You wrote "World on Fire," and you mentioned Chris Cornell and the notion of mental health. And now I know that you've been living healthy the last couple of months, at least. I don't know your entire history, obviously, but how important is that, as you mentioned as well, with not just the incessant touring that you are involved in, but also the label pressures, all that kind of stuff that you've experienced. How did you kind of maintain or protect your mental health?
I've always been a very strong-willed person. When I wanted to do something and when I really made my mind up to do it, I go in full force. And, you know, I decided to go sober back in December. I just felt like it was getting in the way of some of my goals and things that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And I just was like, I want to live. I want to get that kind of excitement from just doing life. And I'm excited to go back out on tour and feel great every morning when I wake up and not be hungover. I knew the toll it was taking on me. And I felt overwhelmed by just daily tasks like emails, and I would just like let emails go for weeks. And then I would get overwhelmed because I had to catch up on those. Meanwhile, there's more coming in. And then there's other stuff. And I think, you know, COVID played a big part of that. You know, all of a sudden you don't have a career and you've got nothing to do, and you start drinking at noon. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I have there's mental health issues in our family that I see firsthand, and I've been around it pretty much my whole life in some capacity. And it's sad because you don't know, like, you know, they could look like the happiest people in the world. Mm-hmm. And then you find out they're dead the next day. And it's, you know, I started thinking about stuff like that, and I didn't want my kids to ever experience anything like that, because, you know, you think of people like Chris Cornell and Chester, and did they really want to die? I doubt it. I doubt it. And I think drugs and mental health it plays such a game in your mind, and the things that you believe when you're under the influence, it's not really you. It's not really what, I mean, that from what I gathered, they were husbands and fathers first and foremost. You know, as a father, I want to protect that from ever happening to me, because I know that addiction runs in my family, and I know what I'm capable of and susceptible of, you know, I feel like in my life, I'm aware that I have an addictive personality. So there are certain things that I definitely want to steer clear of, because I don't want to ever get to a place where I don't know who I am anymore, and something like that. You know, I don't ever want my kids to have to experience that. So I find mental health one of the least, I feel like there needs to be way more attention placed on mental health. It's a real thing. And I think it's not taken seriously enough.
For you, how has music helped with this? Not just now, but over your life?
I think it's a huge help, in the sense that I'm able to say things on paper and in song that maybe I wouldn't be able to say in a conversation. Because I feel like you can get away with writing down some of your darkest feelings, and it's so poetic, and it cuts deep when you hear it in a song, and people can relate to that. And that's where a lot of my, you know, I feel like a lot of my darkness comes out is in music. And especially with this record, I think I dealt with a lot of my own personal struggles on paper on this record. And it was very therapeutic and transformative in a way. It was almost like a release. I've always kind of, I've always written from personal experience, but this one felt like the most vulnerable and open that I've ever been when writing. I didn't feel closed off or afraid to say something.
Final question, and when do people get to hear some of the new music?
And that is the question. This year. It is the record is finished in regards and as far as me and the band are concerned, we're done. Now it's in post-production and mix phase, so we're getting close.
Well, can't wait to listen to it.
We've done the photo shoot. We're doing the artwork now. We're working on merch. We're in the process of getting prepared to launch it. I just don't have a release date yet.
One final question, then, and it's gonna sound a little bit oxymoronic, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But are you looking forward to going on the road? Because I think ever since the whole American Idol thing, you've been pretty much on the road and playing music until last year, and then all of a sudden there's this slowdown. Are you really looking forward to playing again, or do you like this kind of pace that you're at now?
Man, that's a catch-22. It's I miss it so much, and I can't wait to go out and perform live again. But I also love being at home with my kids every day. And I'm terrified of leaving my wife with that heavy responsibility again. Now I've gotten a taste of, not a taste. I mean, I've eaten the whole plate. I've gotten to experience exactly what she goes through every day when I'm not here, and it sucks. and so for that, I'm definitely not looking forward to leaving her with that, and trying to figure out a way to lighten that load a little bit. But the real answer is yes. I'm very much looking forward to getting back out and performing live. It's going to be weird, but we're excited for it.
Yeah, I think the world's ready for it as well. So
yeah,
should be good times once everything kind of opens up again.
For sure, man.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. Be good. Thanks.